Mercedes has recorded the second top 3 finish in the last 2 races, and it seems like the Silver Arrows finally understand what's going on with the development of their car. Even better news has come from Brackley. The Silver Arrows aren't ready to give up on the season just yet because a new, larger upgrade package is arriving in Silverstone. Therefore, the British Grand Prix will be in which we'll see the W14 being even more competitive than it is right now. The spiced up season we've been waiting for might have just shown up at our doorstep, given how much the gap has dropped to Red Bull from Bahrain to Canada. Mercedes has been able to reap the benefits of a new and improved car design since the Monaco Grand Prix. This design upgrade included a completely new front suspension, a new floor, and a new side pod design. This might not be sufficient to compete with the powerful RB19, a vehicle that excels in every category. Mercedes is still not there, but the enormous step they took to move Aston Martin from second to third in the Constructors' Championship says a lot about the direction the team is going in. The Mercedes W14 was slower than the Aston Martin MR23 in Canada. However, this was to be expected from the W14 given the characteristics of the Montreal track. Because Barcelona has more medium and high-speed corners than this track does, which is now unquestionably the finest thing that could possibly happen to the Silver Arrows. And to top it all off, Russell's incident forced him to retire from the race because of the Brit suffering from brake-related issues. However, Mercedes' promise and potential in Montreal offer us a lot of faith that the future races will be ones to which we will surely have to pay more attention to. First and foremost, Mercedes won 2 races in a row by defeating Sergio Perez of Red Bull as well as both Ferraris. Mercedes accomplished this on 2 completely polar opposite tracks. Additionally, George Russell started behind Perez at Barcelona, yet still managed to finish on the last podium spot ahead of the Mexican, giving the Silver Arrows their best points finish since the 2023 season began. But it is all in the past, and the present is what we are concentrating on, a time when Mercedes will release yet another significant upgrade package. Even though team members voiced their reservations about how much the front suspension has cost them, and they're probably done further improving the car. The team's director of trackside engineering, Andrew Shovlin, discussed this problem. The new front suspension, according to him, was the main part which has eaten up a lot of the team's budget for this season. Mercedes must now exercise considerable caution in their financial decisions for the rest of the season. One is that they ought to consider spending as much as they can on the car for 2024. Second, I'm fairly certain that the Silver Arrows do not want to be found in a situation where they violate the cost cap like Red Bull did. To be fair, based on what we're currently seeing from the RB19, going over the budget cap might not be that bad for the Silver Arrows. Toto Wolff has suggested that we are yet to expect some improvements in the performance of the W14. And when talking about this matter, he pointed at the British Grand Prix as next target for the team, as he went on to add, "We are bringing a larger one to Silverstone, then we should have another one before the summer shutdown. It's just that the learnings have accelerated a lot since we changed some of the conceptual architecture. There should be decent steps coming in the next 4 races." While the team did introduce a major conceptual change at Monaco, the team insists that change is the new baseline for the Brackley-based squad. Every baseline needs fine-tuning to extract the maximum potential. So, I do expect the team to be already poking around the new side pods and the new floor in the wind tunnel. So for Silverstone, we can expect more changes made to the bodywork, aiming to improve the rear downforce generation. The team will either make changes to the floor to generate more downforce, or try to accelerate the airflow from the downwashing side pods to the diffuser area, generating significant rear downforce. Austria is obviously prior to Silverstone. It's safe to say that we can anticipate yet another fantastic performance from the W14, even though we do not formally know if the team will be bringing any upgrades to the Red Bull ring. The combination of slow and fast corners on the course, which seems to suit both Russell and Hamilton's driving styles, will come in handy around the Austrian track. The Silver Arrows are dubious of bringing anything new to the Red Bull ring with an updated version of the vehicle, but with just a few setup adjustments, we might see Hamilton and Russell continue the streak that they began back in Barcelona. Given how unreliable Lance Stroll of Aston Martin is, it's safe to suggest that with Mercedes' current race pace consistency, improvement in qualifying, and luck with the car's reliability, they might become the first team to win a race that wasn't named Red Bull. And as we can see from this graph, during the past several races, Red Bull's dominance has decreased to a respectable degree. And even though it was Alonso the driver that got the best out of this graph compared to Verstappen during the Canadian Grand Prix, Hamilton's late surge also prompted the Aston Martin driver to push harder and make the race's finish even more competitive. That was the first thing said by Alonso. He had to complete a race that was almost the equivalent of 70 qualifying laps, since the W14's greater speed prevented him from relaxing and coasting to his 6th podium of the season. And we're saying this because Montreal wasn't supposed to experience a better level of W14 competition than we have in the past. We therefore have a very fascinating season ahead of us, especially in light of Wolff's most recent claims that the car is becoming increasingly pleasurable to drive. When discussing the simulations of the most recent improvements, Wolff added, "I think we are understanding the simulations better. The time is correlating what we are seeing on track, and that's been our problem over the 1.5 years. We've seen good performance gains that are coming in the tunnel. We are seeing better understanding of what the car needs in order to go fast, what the setups need to look like. So generally, the steps are getting bigger. I think we are making good inroads." And when you stop to think about it, Mercedes hasn't often been heard praising their approach to season development, particularly over the past 18 months, when each race has essentially served as a means of gathering data. However, considering that Hamilton is just slower than Verstappen and Alonso in Montreal, the win for W14 could come sooner than we had thought. Mercedes' most recent improvement appears to have even another benefit in that they are now taking a closer look at Red Bull's floor design after fully grasping how the RB19's concept has been making the car look like a rock ship on the grid. In all honesty, Wolff himself acknowledged that it would be difficult to duplicate a success like Red Bull on the W14's constrained chassis, but that doesn't always imply that Silverstone will receive a subpar upgrade. James Allison, the new and old CTO of Mercedes, has actually discussed this issue as he continued. "Certainly it always attracts a lot of interest. There is a lot of scurrying around with team cameramen, not just to rely on the TV pictures, which are low resolution and not good enough grade. Sadly, our own car had its trip into the heavens this weekend, and there will be plenty of photos in our competitors' inboxes from that. But yes, we got a nice clutch of Red Bull imagery, and that's always a good thing for our aerodynamicists to pore over and see if we can pick out details that will be of interest to us in our ongoing test program." Obviously, Red Bull has recognized the challenge posed by Mercedes ramping up the pace. Even though Horner made an effort to downplay their upgrades and claimed Mercedes still finished behind Red Bull by 24 seconds in Barcelona, the Brit added that he is more worried of Aston Martin than Mercedes. Given that the impetus has clearly shifted, this only serves more fuel to the machinery back at Brackley. Hamilton and Russell are pleased with how things are operating in the plant again. And even though he would anticipate them to lose out once Aston Martin and Ferrari begin reaping the benefits of their upgrades, the W14 is the team on the grid with the highest rate of development. This allows them to make some surprise moves later on in the season, and the season is still very much alive as everything for the W14 is starting to make sense. Despite the fact that Mercedes is still a long way from where they want to be, many people would have expected Hamilton to have trouble signing the contract. The 7-time world champion and Wolff both stated that the contract talks have been renewed and that there are still a few minor points that need to be resolved before a final signature will be placed on the contract, despite the fact that they have made enormous advancements and improvements to the W14's race speed. But according to Martin Brundle, a well-known Sky Sports F1 analyst, Mercedes currently holds the cards. Despite being in a better position contractually with the organization than anyone else, Hamilton no longer has the same kind of negotiating power he once did. Although Hamilton leads Russell in the Drivers' Championship, Mercedes will use Russell's younger compatriot's talent to their advantage in an effort to work out the kinks with Hamilton. As we anticipate, the Brit's new contract will be announced at Silverstone. There may be some upgrades to the contract between Hamilton and Mercedes in addition to the mechanical upgrades in the team at Silverstone, as Brundle added. Mercedes have some cards to play. One of them will be George Russell. Lewis will have some cards to play. One of them will be an underperforming car and things he wants to do. I'm sure they're putting in place all sorts of milestones for the future. Brundle, like Jenson Button, agreed that Hamilton's future is with Mercedes, and there isn't somewhere else he'd rather continue his career in light of the fact that he just declared his intention to continue competing long past the age of 40. Given this, there is a strong likelihood that Hamilton will be able to compete for victories in 2023, which would be fantastic for the duration of the season and the following one as well. If there is one thing Hamilton excels at, it is reminding his supporters that they have yet to witness the best versions of both his team and himself. This may force us to wait till 2024. Silverstone and Budapest, as well as Spa, will be the races that will have our entire attention in terms of Hamilton and Russell's performance given the current situation, which includes Red Bull's penalty and the W14's heightened pace. So what do you guys think? What do you think about another sidepods upgrade from Mercedes? How much performance gains are you expecting from Mercedes at Silverstone? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section down below. We'd love to discuss it with you. And on your way down, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get notified of our future uploads to keep yourselves up to date about the 2023 Formula 1 season.